Hey guys, it's Lion here with Hobbies and Men. Once again, and today we're going to be doing another manga review. Today we're going to be looking at Kamen Rider, the classic collection. This is the 50th anniversary for Kamen Rider, the manga. And if I remember correctly, this is a adaptation of the show that was done by Shotaro Ishinomori, as you guys can see down there. And this is published by 7 Seas, as you guys can see right there. And it's a huge honker of a book. The demographic for this is shonen, and it's a sci-fi superhero tokusatsu type thing. And like I said, it adapts the OG Kamen Rider show, or this was adapted into the show. I'm not really sure. Either way, it basically is, you know, interchangeable. They kind of are the same thing because they're from the same creator. And so there you go. It features the original Kamen Rider manga series, plus some bonus material and some full color inserts. And I don't think the bonus material is all that great, but it's interesting. It's there. It kind of is a little bit extra that was happily put into this, and so I can't knock it too much. But the story is pretty interesting, and it is basically split into 2 sections. It's not really split in the book, like the book doesn't tell you section 1, section 2, but the way that the story is told does deal with 2 different sections, basically correlating to Kamen Rider 1 and Kamen Rider 2, and that's just kind of how it is. And the rating for this is a 3 out of 5. I don't think it's the best, mostly because it's old, and kind of the storytelling aspects of it weren't there. However, I read this right before I watched the Kamen Rider movie, the Shin Kamen Rider movie, which I did a review for, a ramble review that you can find on the channel, and it should be on the iCard somewhere up above. But I read it right before I went to watch that movie, and so I was able to enjoy the movie more. And so this is a 3 out of 5 for the manga itself. But for the impact it had on my enjoyment of Kamen Rider in general, I would kind of put it at like a 4 out of 5. Like it is pretty meaningful to my burgeoning interest in Kamen Rider. This started with Kamen Rider Kuga, the manga, and then with Kamen Rider Black Sun, and then this manga, and then of course Shin Kamen Rider, which I watched a few days ago. So I find it meaningful and interesting. It's just not that good of a manga. So there you go. That's kind of my thoughts on that there. The premise here is that there's this hidden cabal of evil Japanese people called Shocker. And the acronym means something, but it's never explained in the manga. But if you watch the Shin Kamen Rider movie, you'll understand what it means. And so they create these human-animal cyborg hybrid things. And one of them, the main character, Kamen Rider, manages to free from his mental shackles and decides to oppose them and fight for the liberty of the Japanese people, basically. So he is essentially, you know, a Japanese Batman, more or less. Or actually, I think it'd be more like Spider-Man specifically, but, you know, in that kind of vein, right? So, yeah. And Kamen Rider means masked rider. It doesn't really have anything to do with his motif, but his motif has to do with the fact that he was an agent of Shocker turned good, right? So, there you go. And the plot line here follows main character Hongo, the first Kamen Rider, as he was taken by Shocker, turned into a human cyborg, and then breaks the mind control and becomes their main opposition in Japan and honestly in the world, right? So it's not very clear, and it's not the best explanation ever. However, you basically understand that Hongo was a university student, then didn't really do all that much. However, he had a meaningful connection with his professor, who happened to be a member of Shocker, or an agent of Shocker, who worked with them in order to create the technologies necessary. Eventually, something happens, and he gets taken in by Shocker. He gets turned into a cyborg, frees himself from his mind control, and with the help of his professor, leaves and becomes the masked rider. However, eventually his professor is killed, and the professor's daughter sees Hongo, you know, interacting with him before his death, and so she thinks that he killed her, or that she thinks that he killed her dad, and so they're initially in opposition. Eventually, she becomes a non-entity. However, in the Shin Kamen Rider movie, she's actually kind of a meaningful character, so I quite like that aspect about her in that. And so we get to see Hongo have 3 different stories where he defeats Shocker agents and he opposes them. However, eventually he passes on the cowl of Kamen Rider to another after the situation that happens in the story of the 13 Kamen Riders, right? So yeah, at that point that we enter in the second phase of the book, where Hayato Ichimonji takes on the role of Kamen Rider after the 13 Kamen Riders attack, and he becomes the main character and has one big adventure on his own before he ends up finding a way to kind of thwart Shocker once and for all, end them for good, and has to team up with let's call it resurrected Hongo, right? And so the story ends and our hero is saved, or saves the day, and things change, and we get to see, good prevail in the end. And it's pretty enjoyable. It's pretty good. The Shin Kamen Rider movie focuses on the first half of the story, mostly, and then I feel like it leaves open a lot of space for the Hayato Ichimonji part of the story to happen. So I really hope we get a Shin Kamen Rider 2 with Hayato being the main character. And it'd be pretty interesting to see how that works. So yeah, overall, even though it's a big honking book, you can pretty much distill most of the things that happen into pretty small sentences, because a lot of it is like fight scenes that are really fun to read and cool artwork and stuff like that. But the substance of the story and the dialogue of the story is not really all that deep, right? So, your mileage may vary. For me, it was enjoyable enough to keep reading, and definitely enough for me to keep, but it's not the best thing ever. So, yeah, in terms of characters, we have Hongo, Hayato, who are the two main characters, and we have some side characters like Ruriko and Hayato's girlfriend, and Hayato's girlfriend's little brother, and the guy that takes care of Hongo's estate, and Midorikawa, who is the original doctor, and, a bunch of villains, which are pretty interesting. We have Man Spider, Man Bat, Cobra Man, Lady Medusa, I think, some robot, Crab Man, Armadillo Man, I think. There's a few other ones. Like, they're not really the best villains, but they're there to cause opposition to the main character, and it works out pretty well in that sense, right? So yeah, in terms of world building, it's not bad. It's good for a classic anime / manga, but it's not really the best. Shocker, though, is a cool bad guy organization, and it's pretty interesting, and I like the animal theming, or technically I think it's bug theming, but bats and cobras are not technically, insects, but they're kind of like evil animals, so it kind of works, right? And overall, I did like this. I enjoy the scientific aspects. I think the Shin Kamen Rider movie does a much better job at telling you the stuff that happens with this, because there really isn't too much going on in terms of what the manga tells you. But overall, pretty good stuff. I quite liked it. I enjoyed it. It was fine. It worked out pretty well. It's honestly on par with something like Captain Harlock, where the scientific aspect doesn't really matter. It's just a backdrop so that you can have the story, right? So yeah, in terms of artwork and fan service, the artwork is really, really awesome. The illustrations are pretty interesting, and there's no fan service whatsoever. There's really no, well, there may be a scene or two, but it's not really like fan service. It's just like part of the body horror aspect, that the characters are nude and stuff like that. So, your mileage may vary there. I don't really think there's any fan service whatsoever. The story really isn't focused on that. It's not about that. This is mostly a man turned hero saving the world, and he kind of has this like climate change, anti-climate change kind of mentality to him. Like he's trying to save the world from the horrors that humans inflict on it, but also he's trying to just save humans from this weird thing that Shocker's trying to do, to take free will away from them. So it's kind of a dissonance between the two things, but it works out. So yeah, overall, the artwork was pretty cool. And by the end of it, by the later parts of the story, there's this sequence where Kamen Rider does a kick, and you get to see every part of the kick. It almost felt like a movie. It was really, really cool how it did all that. So overall, pretty cool stuff there. And like I said, a rating, it's a 3 out of 5. It's not the best, but it's pretty good. Like, I liked it. I would probably reread it again, because I have a kind of like a special place in my heart for these types of manga. But I would never say that it's like the best manga ever. It's not really like, if I were to recommend some classic manga, it might be in the recommendation list, but it would have a heavy, heavy caveat where I'm like, yeah, this is going to be kind of boring. You might not really understand it. And honestly, you kind of have to have an appreciation or a desire to appreciate Kamen Rider before you can really say that this is going to be a good manga for you, right? So, you know, there's a lot of caveats associated with this, but overall, 3 out of 5 for me. It's definitely enough for me to keep it and have it in my collection and proudly display it, but it's not necessarily something I'm going to come back over and over again, right? So, you know, there you go. That's my thoughts on Kamen Rider. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry I mentioned the movie so much, but it's kind of on my mind right now, and also it's just kind of like, it just synergistically fits. So there you go. That's kind of why I mentioned it so much in the review. I really shouldn't have, but I just think it's part of the course. It's just kind of what was going to happen anyway. So there you go. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.